So, my name is Ines Dedovic, and today I will be talking about how do we illustrate our book. So, I'm the author of the book, co-author of the book, Algorithms and Data Structures for Large Datasets, Massive Datasets. And one of the points, like what makes our book special, are the illustrations. So, the idea uh, that we decided to use in the book is we try to make the diagrams and algorithm as simple as possible, at least to seem like that. And to do that, we actually were illustrating the diagrams that look unserious. They look like childish, like in children books. So I will start about talking about myself. So I studied electrical engineering in Sarajevo, and I worked as a 3D animator like also during my studies. And after the studies, I came to Germany where I did my PhD in computer vision. And now I'm working on developing camera systems like hardware and software like for Jonas and Redman company. So in the meanwhile, as a hobby now, I'm actually drawing comics and publishing them and taking part on festivals, like also comic festivals, like when I find time. So now, like about the book. So there's like one of our drawings, like in the background. Like the idea was to try to make them as in children books. So the characters, they are happy, they are like quite expressive. Like there are a lot of colors on images, and everything is hand drawn. So we decided to avoid copy pasting like the clip art. We also wrote the the letters like they are handwritten, like just to get this, let's say, more friendlier feeling. So now I will show just a couple of examples of images in our book. So for instance here, and the idea was to draw like this, like all the algorithms, like the diagrams, they are just presented, let's say, in this happy manner. Yeah. So this is like what they look like, what the illustrations look like. We did get, let's say, some critics that some people said that it was easier for them to read diagrams than these illustrations. But the idea of illustrations is actually to get, let's say, other audience that is afraid or find it a little bit scary, to check these diagrams that are not used to them, they are not so maybe familiar in math and such. And therefore we made these illustrations look easy for them, look unserious. We didn't see the point of making another book using the same diagrams as you can find everywhere on the internet and in other books. So I will talk now about which tools I use. So I started, when we started with the book, I started using the tablet. It's okay, Lenovo Yoga Book, where I used actually Autodesk Sketchbook, which is free. And I'm actually using it when I'm traveling. The problem with this tablet was when we started making really a lot of drawings, because it just the battery doesn't last enough, it wasn't so practical, and therefore I actually bought the Wacom a Syntec to use to make the rest of the drawings. So now I'm using the Wacom. And as a software, as over here I have Windows, on the tablet it was Android. Over here the Autodesk Sketchbook wasn't actually the best choice, it didn't give me the most flexible options. So actually my sister she recommended me to use Krita, which is also free but quite similar to Photoshop, and in my opinion, because I'm not doing actually I'm not doing realistic paintings, it's for me much better. There are many here brushes that actually are for me quite enough for drawing, for comics. So let's see more, what did I plan? And this is actually how I work. Now, like I wanted to show like the whole process of illustration, like how do we start, like from the idea, like how do I get the task, like what does it look like, and like all the steps in between. So as an example, we'll use actually one part of our book, and I will move it over here. Just a second. So I said I will be using like this hyperlog like chapter, and there is a part here that we were actually advised to make to visualize it. It describes the like linear counting like part. So it says here like we are like the whole chapter is about estimating the number of unique elements in a large data set. And like while the main algorithm here is like hyperlog, there is a mention of the linear counting algorithm as well, which is used, let's say, for the smaller numbers. So here it says like in the case of very small cardinalities in relation to the number of buckets, many buckets will remain empty, blah blah. We will resort to the probabilistic method called linear counting to establish the true cardinality. So this approach follows the logic of ball and bin setup, where if we throw n balls into n bins uniformly, randomly, based on how many buckets remain empty, we can estimate the total number of balls. And the more details can be found like in the paper of linear counting. So we got, let's say, one recommendation that we visualize it, that we make it also like a drawing of this paragraph. So in order to do it, actually the first part would be, okay, from here I see like that I'm supposed to draw like the balls and bins, like to use that association, like that metaphor, and we will use the original paper. So before drawing anything, I am actually reading like the papers that are over here mentioned. So here it's like Wang et al. And that one is here, like the paper. So as the first step, let's say learn like what am I supposed to like draw. I'm not just like redrawing also like over the finished diagrams, but we are trying also to make it as close as possible like to the real algorithm. So I'll just skip it like to the part where he actually explains like the basic algorithm or how it works. So here it says, okay, there are like two steps. One step is like he creates like the bitmap of the size m, initializes it all to zeros. Then afterwards, like it is trying to fill like the bitmap, and and like which elements like they appear, like the bitmap gets the number 1. So the idea of the whole algorithm comes in the step 2, where he actually counts the number of empty bins and uses the equation like written here, like for estimation. And under there is actually like a picture of how it looks like. So there are like so here's a bit mask. There are some entries that are causing collision, like that have like the same hash. And there is also like a possibility that in this stream, like there are like 2 that actually duplicates. So we'll try to make a similar drawing. We'll like use like just ball and bins like to do the same part. Now also, let's say when we do these either diagrams or whatever graphs and such, you will see that everything is hand drawn so that it looks friendly. But let's say most of the time we actually use let's say either software like either GeoGebra, or like we program, let's say a little bit, like just that I have, okay, this is like a really simple, like just that I have, let's say, some values that are generated by the computer. Okay, I don't think it's visible like from me right now on the screen. So it is not like really set up. Here I did like do everything as it says like in the algorithm. The only difference is like the linear counting, it works for a large sets of data for larger cardinalities, and I'm not going to draw like 1000 balls. So I actually ran, let's say, this program several times until I got the results that I liked, that like I enjoyed. So when I had them, so over here, let's say I actually got like how many balls I have to draw where. I started like making a sketch in Krita. So in Krita, like I love the software so much because you are actually here able like to do also the animation part, but we'll do like just a drawing. So I go create a new image, and one of the things that is also like was a question is like the size of the image and what does this like pixel per inch like means. So for books over here, like you get, let's say, some specifications on like how big they are supposed to be. For the drawing, like on computer, the digital drawing, like is important like just how many pixels are going to be there. So we usually like it's enough like 2000 as such that we use like in the book. This pixel per inch, let's say, it's not so important, because even if you do it wrong, like you can still rescale the image. So you need pixels, number of pixels, like only. On the other hand, like if you are doing the traditional art, if you are drawing it on the paper, then when you scan it, then there is like also a parameter like dots per inch, like dpi, and it's recommended like to use like either 300 or 600 like dots per image. That means like how many pixels you will get from the drawing that you have on a paper. So other way around, such a additional parameter is important. While drawing, it's so because still I can rescale it as long as I have like enough pixels. Okay, so I have already prepared, let's say, some sketch, because I didn't know like how long will it last. It's usually like a really long process. So here's like already like a sketch. So what is on the sketch? So we here have, let's say, the first part. We will have like the different balls, like the 7 different balls over here. Each of them will go to a different hash. Like for me, like I used like as a hash, like another emoticon or emoji, or like what are they called? And some of them will repeat, which means that will be a collision. And then afterwards, here's like the process where the character like throws balls like in bins and causing, okay, here's collision, like because they will be like a different balls inside. Here will be duplicates because they are all the same. And then from here, like I will actually like just write the equation that since one is empty, like it calculates that the number of the unique elements is 8.07 or such, which is quite close to the real cardinality or real number of unique numbers, which is 7. So to do this, I actually like during the drawing I use, I think, like maximum like 4 different tools. So I use like this sketching pencil, let's say, to do these sketches. And afterwards, I like when I'm already satisfied with it, like since this is like a really simple drawing, I'm not making the sketch, let's say, more detailed. I can already go to inking. Let's see just. So that is with the tool here. And now I will just continue like making this drawing. This is going to be a little bit, let's say, maybe boring process, like a long one, but yeah. If you have any questions, you can ask. I will be checking if there are no questions. I'll just continue drawing and then like maybe listening to music. And I'm not one of the fast artists, like I like enjoying doing it slow. Important thing, for instance, here, like in the original paper, they have actually an example where they say actually, like where they also use an example of like balls of different colors like being thrown like in different bins. Since this will be a black and white book, so I'm actually not using like the different colors, like I'm first like drawing different textures. And yeah, and I actually, even it will be like in a color, there are some people who actually recognize like the colors a little bit more difficult. So it is advised to have always, let's say, some texture. Also for plots, also for graphs. So one of the important like parts where we pay attention is that, yeah, that the characters are smiley and like, yeah, on their expressions. They don't look flat. And this one's again. So I will create another layer, like where am I going to, so now that I have to paint, so these numbers and text we will do later on. So I will hide this part. I will first do some painting. So I use these pastel colors so that when it converts to black and white, that it's still, that the colors are still visible. I don't need to worry about it, like about the checking afterwards. So as they are supposed to look like sketches, like I'm not actually trying to make it perfect. With this one. Sorry, wrong layer. So, okay, I got the question like, why am I drawing here like the balls and squares? Okay, from the balls, like it was already written like here. It is actually an example from the paper, but it's also written in our book. Just a second. It was written like in our book here, like it will be in the description, like balls and bins. The reason why I've chosen here like the smileys to look like as a hash function is because I wanted to have, let's say, some sort of image, like something that you will recognize like really easily, like already visually, like that they are connected. Yeah. And actually, there are also like other pictures that we did. Just a second to see. If it finally opened. So I will just show a little bit, let's say it is an example like the other images. So just a second to find them. For instance, like one of the images here, like it shows like the algorithm like of how is also determined like the number that is like the most like in an array. And as an example, like there are goats. So there was like a question of like, why did I use goats? And it comes like more like through the conversation of me like with Jayla, as she tells me like the algorithm, and she over here in this case, for instance, like she wanted to see somehow that these numbers that they sort of hit in each other and then like one of them falls away. And I remember like this like folk story, like where I don't know, like the folk story where there are like two goats that like don't want to like cross the bridge, like none of them like wants to give up, and this is why like they fight and they actually both fall down. And that, for instance, fitted like exactly like to the algorithm, where they are like the ones next to each other, like they both fall until there's like only one left, and that one that is left is actually the highest number. And this is why like we decided here, yeah, to use goats. We thought like it would be fun. There are also, let's say, some that images that we actually try to make them look a little bit more interesting, but then at the end like we changed our mind because they weren't so effective. I will show now. So there's like an image that shows here, that shows, let's say, different levels of memory and like how fast they are with the capacity. So I've tried several of comics, like one like standing next to each other, and at the end, like we decided that maybe it's the best really like just draw the diagram and draw like several elements like one over another, like where they belong in the in the graph. So this is like literally just drawn on the graph like several images of what do these like memory levels like look like. Okay, so I'll continue with my painting. Let's say soon I will have all those elements, then I can continue talking something like more interesting. So let's say now I have the basic colors. Then I would go to the shadowing, which I usually actually do like with the purple color. And the reason why I do it, because like with the purple, like bluish purple one, is because then it looks, let's say, more mystery, like more dreamlike. So in our drawing, we actually have a lot of colors like one like on the top of each other, and it's actually a really colorful drawing. So I'm a big fan of, let's say, coloring and adding like as many colors as possible, like until you cannot stand it anymore. Which also, like one of the critics came, is that the colors were, let's say, too intensive, and therefore, like, yeah, they were a little bit maybe like too hard to follow, like for some people. They were a little bit, let's say, too hard to look at as being like too colorful. Therefore, usually like when I finish the drawing, like when I finish my coloring, there is a possibility here, just a second, like that so okay, now this is like in German, to adjust the saturation, and I usually put it like much lower than as I'm drawing it. So usually, let's say, even sometimes like these would be my colors, and then like I just after finishing I lower the saturation, like just to keep, let's all this so many like different tones, but that they are, let's say, easier to look at. So as mentioned before, on each of elements I'm actually also trying to add, let's say, some sort of texture so that they look visible, like also like quite recognizable, like on the black and white version. And this is also something, yeah. Ah, this one is also, I didn't see it. Now the question, like how do I choose the colors and stuff, actually just randomly for these. There was, let's say, also like one of the critiques is that my handwriting, like, yeah, is not that readable. Then I try to like write the letters a little bit slower, yeah, a little bit prettier. But the idea, like why we didn't still give up on it, is that all of these things, like from handwritten stuff, from not making like these drawings perfect, not copying, pasting like all the time, like one element, because let's say then they would be a little bit more alike, is to give actually a character to it, that you have like really a feeling that this is illustration, this is like one whole thing, and it's not made of like the several parts, so it looks, let's say, more real as a drawing. They also like this, like I use the same shadowing, so that you know that actually every single like drawing each of these elements, they are, I took time to make them. Just a second, let's see if there are like more. Okay, so as said, like for the character, they look quite often evil, or like angry, like on my images, or like laughing, like really. The reason why I do it is also because I see that these, let's say, a little bit mean characters, a little bit, let's say, extreme, like smiling, like showing their teeth and such, they make people like laugh, unlike like just those like characters that they just smile. But in any case, let's say all characters, they are happy to be in the book, happy like to teach you anything new. The reason why these characters, they look like this, and let's say not like real human, is because before, as like one of the ideas, when Jayla was like presenting me like her book and the idea of how is she going to draw it, like she wasn't drawing the real humans, like she's not like much of an artist, but like as much as she was able to, like she drew these like stick characters, and these stick characters, they look like really cute, and therefore like we decided to keep them, or like to make the characters that look quite similar like to these original ones. So sort of everybody can copy them. They are like minimalized, like just to add an expression and trying to make you, yeah, feel happy about learning like these new stuff. Okay, actually, like the time will be soon over, so if anybody has like some new questions, please ask. So while drawing, the time goes like really, really fast. It looks like a really simple task to do something that takes just a minute, and then like when you look at the clock, like it's already gone. Okay, already. The problem like that I have sometimes is if I'm drawing and like writing for a long time, my style starts to change a little bit from chapter to chapter. Then probably after some time it's good like to revisit like the old drawings, check them out like what they look like, try to return to the old style, or maybe like if the new style is much better, like update the drawings like from the first chapters. So that we also had to do. Like if you have like our book, you will already like see like a lot of differences, and I will be, let's say, redrawing or at least repainting some like of these like from the first parts of the book. there was, for instance, like during the development, there was one part in the book, I will just try to show it as well, where we wanted to make it more as a comic, and we actually made a, let's say, a sort of a tryout, but let's say a little bit maybe like a wrong choice, where I illustrated too much on one drawing. So for instance here, like, okay, at first, like, it looks okay, it looks like a comic, like it's pretty long, but it's becoming like really hard to follow. So this was, let's say, a tryout for which we decided at the end, okay, maybe we will just cut it. We will try to make smaller, like, images that are a little bit, let's say, easier to follow, but yeah. So you will see also, let's say, a lot of tryouts like throughout the book. Okay, so now I will try also to add lettering. And for me, it's actually one of the most difficult parts. Okay, here it says rule, so here. One of the things that I forget, like, is to create like a separate layer, like for letters, like for the text. And I try to watch out on it, but like it happens like really often that I forget it. Usually you would also, let's say, name all of these layers differently, but let's say most of the time, like, I don't worry about it. I don't want to say I don't have time for it, but even if I did it, I would still make a mistake, like select the wrong one and continue. Yeah. And this is number of buckets. And I have here as a result, so this is estimated. Okay, let's see just how did I calculate. This is, let's say, 2. And that is similar to the real number. So hide this. We'll just add errors. And I'm using, let's say, these colors like red, like if something is like making our result bad, or like green, like if something is useful. So it will go here, and then I'll just put it like under the text, and that we are happy with the result. Okay, so okay, actually they told me like to make little as possible shadowing on letters. So we'll just leave it, the letters as they are. And this would be painting itself. I'll just put, it's supposed to be under the inking layer. The inking layer should be on top. So there, so we managed to finish, let's say, one drawing within an hour. And when I save it, let's say, in this version with layers, so like it's Krita file, and I export it in also PNG format. As in the PNG, it's sent for the further editing, like to the team at the Manning. But yeah, so this would be the process. In the meanwhile, like when I do it like several times, like I ask Jill like if the drawings are, let's say, good, if they suit her, if she wants to change something. So I don't do anything, let's say, without the conversation. So that would be it. So thank you for following, thank you for watching. And I hope like it wasn't I hope it was interesting. So then have a nice evening or have a nice day, depending on where you are. And yeah, bye.